أولى ثانوي. فرصة جديدة وحلم جديد وهنعديها بالتأكيد، وهنعديها بالتأكيد. أولى ثانوي، أولى ثانوي.
Hi my dear students, welcome back to our episode. أهلا بكم طلبة وطالبات الصف الأول الثانوي على قناة مدرستنا 3 تحت إشراف وزارة التربية والتعليم. النهارده إن شاء الله هنبدأ في الشابتر 2، هناخد فيه النهارده lesson 1 and I think it's interesting and so easy part in physics. I think it's going to be fun. Let's start and see what we'll start today. In the beginning, we have just a little objective to our lesson and what we will study for today. We will deduce the equation of motion at a uniform explanation, at a uniform acceleration, and we will explain the graphical representation for these equations. As we studied before, if we have an object that moves with a uniform acceleration, which means acceleration is the rate of change of the velocity of the body. So, acceleration equal delta V over delta T, and by the measuring unit is meter per second square. And we talked before, acceleration may be a positive acceleration, which is represented by graphically by the graph velocity time, which makes a straight line as you see. Or it may be non-uniform or a variable acceleration, which is represented by a curve as you see in the graph velocity time. So, to study or explain the motion of an object that moves with a uniform acceleration, which means this object has initial velocity and a final velocity. And this change in the magnitude happens in a determined time or a definite time. And during this change of velocity, of course, the object or the body covers a specific displacement or a specific distance. We have here many or some physical quantities or properties to explain for this body. We have initial velocity, final velocity, acceleration, displacement, and time. How can we collect all these properties of the object together to explain or to express the motion of this object? So, to facilitate the study of the motion of this object, we have 3 equations of motion. The first equation, which is called the equation of velocity time, which is really between the change of the velocity of the object during the period time that he moves in. As we said, a uniform acceleration, which is denoted by A, which is equal rate of change of velocity. Rate of change, which means change in velocity by time, equal delta V over delta T. So, in the object start from a motion at T equals 0, which means the object was in a static state, then start the motion, and end the motion in a specific time. So, the change in T will equal the period time or the time taken to make the motion. So, delta V, as we talked before, equal LV final minus LV initial. And by substituting the value of a delta V, which is V final minus V initial in the first equation or in the first relation, we get the first simple equation of motion, which is equal or expresses the final velocity of the object after a definite time. V final equal V initial plus AT. And this is the relation between the final velocity and the acceleration during a specific time. We have just a simple example. It's a direct application for the equation number 1. If we have the speed of a car is changed from 0.5 meter to 0.5 meter per second to 1.5 meter per second by acceleration 2 meter per second square. Find the time of this motion. قبل ما تبتدي تحل أي problem أو أي مسألة موجودة عندنا نقراها مرة ونقراها مرة تانية كمان. نفهم المينينج بالظبط هو عاوز إيه. تاني خطوة أو السكند ستيب الموجودة عندي إن أنا أبتدي أعمل collection للجيفنز الموجودة في البروبلم عندي. تمام؟ طب what are the given here? The speed of a car is changed from 0.5 meter per second to 1.5 meter per second. So 0.5 it's considered the VI, our initial velocity of the motion of the object. Then it changed or increased to 1.5 meter per second. فاتحولت أو بقت 1.5 meter per second. So this is the final velocity. And he said the object moves with acceleration 2 meter per second square. So this is acceleration. We still here have unknown, just only unknown. بعد كده طلعت الجيفنز الموجود عندي في البروبلم وبعد كده ابتدي اشوف ايه اللي مطلوب مني and which equation is suitable to use to find the value or the magnitude of the unknown. طيب انا عندي ال first equation as it's an example. It's a direct application for the first equation, so we will use the first equation of course. V final equal V initial plus AT. So by transfer V initial to the other side, so we get V final minus V initial all over acceleration just to find the magnitude of time. So T equal 1.5 minus 0.5 divided by 2, which is equal 0.5 second. في بس عندي هنا ملاحظة بسيطة بس. Physics it's all the time integrated or related with math, which means أنا عندي قانون فيزياء معين تمام. But to apply or to find the values, I need to all the time to use a mathematical operation or mathematical equation. So all the time you will find the integration between the two subjects. فأنا بالنسبة لي أهم حاجة عندي دور الفيزيكس موجود مثلا في البروبلم ده أعرف which equation that I will use وأحط الجيفنز الموجودة عندي في right position بتاعتها. بعد كده الكالكوليشن بقى نفسها دي مرتبطة it's related to your mathematical skills بالمهاراتك أو بقدراتك الرياضية في مادة الرياضيات. تمام؟ فنحاول إن احنا على قدر الإمكان ان احنا نكون متاكدين وواثقين ونحاول نربط دايما ما بين السبجكت اللي احنا بندرسها. تمام؟ فبالنسبه لي هنا الجزء او البارت اللي بعد ما بكتب الايكويشن بتاعتي انا ببتدي بعمل ماثيماتيكال اوبريشن. دي عمليات حسابيه بقى الموجوده عندي جمع وطرح وضرب وقسمه والكلام ده كله ده بيبقى مرتبط فيها. This is important point that you have to take care or consider to integrate between your studying subject. The second equation to express or explain the motion of the object, which is the equation of displacement time, which you find the relation between the displacement and time. As we said, object moves with acceleration, has initial velocity and the final velocity, which means this object makes or covers a specific displacement or a specific distance. To find the magnitude of this distance, average velocity, as we said before, which means a total displacement over a total time, because this is average. So, the object moves at a uniform acceleration. So, the average velocity also can be given by the equation in V equal V final plus V initial all over 2. ده القانون العادي اللو العادي بتاع الافريج. بجيب average two values, summation بتاعهم divided by their number. And we have two velocities, V final and V initial, summation بتاعهم divided by 2. طيب واحنا لسه اخدين من شويه we have taken before V final, it has an equation to express the value of V final or final velocity. V final equal V initial plus AT. We will substitute the value of V final in this relation, so we can get V final equal 2VI plus AT all over 2. But in this case, we don't want to find the value of the final velocity. This is the final velocity equal to v initial plus at all over 2. But in this equation, we don't want to find the final velocity. We want to find the displacement أو total distance covered by the object. طيب ال distance أو displacement equal إيه أصلا؟ It's عبارة عن multiply لل v times ال t. So لما يكون عندي فيه هنا ال v فال two sides الموجودة عندي لو عملتهم multiply by t في التايم هضربهم في التايم الاثنين يبقى هنا v times t والترم ده كله multiply t. By developing your mathematical skills, you will get a final equation or a final second equation عندي, which is denoted as you see, d equal v initial t plus half at squared. And this is the second equation that express or we use to find the total displacement covered by the object during the motion. A graphical representation of the second equation. As we used, we always use a graph or a graphical representation to express or to understand more the relation between many variables of many elements that affect on the motion of the object. If we trace or draw on the y-axis the velocity of the object and on the x-axis the time taken during the motion itself, we will get this straight line. Why this is a straight line? Because the object moves with uniform or a constant acceleration. So any constant it is something which is constant or uniform, it's always expressed by a straight line. It's not always starts from the original point, from the zero. When it can start from the original point, when the initial value equal 0. But here, in some books or in some references, it's expressed v initial of the motion of the object. It's sometimes expressed by u. By the way, because if you search in any reference, you may find v initial is expressed or denoted by the letter u, just not to be confused. LV, it's always the v final of the motion of this object. And of course, this is the time. طيب احنا دلوقتي بنتكلم عن الديسبيسمنت او الديستانس واحنا جايبين جراف في الفي وفي التي. طيب انا فين عندي هنا الديسبيسمنت او الكفر ديسبيسمنت؟ لما يكون في عندك جراف والجراف الموجود ده انت المفروض طالب منك حاجه والحاجه دي هي عباره عن مين؟ المالتيبلاي of the value of the two axes, الواي اكسس والاكس اكسس. طب الفاليو دي اللي هي عباره عن ايه؟ مش انا الواي اكسس ده عباره عن الفي expressed الفي والتي represented on الاكس اكسس. طب what's equal v times t is equal a distance or the displacement. طب it's not the slope. The slope, as we know, this is the physical quantity expressed on the y-axis divided by the x-axis. طب لما اجي اعمل لهم multiply بقى اجيب الفاليو بتاعتهم ازاي؟ اشوف الكيرف الموجود عندي واجيب الاريا under the curve. طب area under the curve which is represent ال v times ال t. طب ال v times t equal ايه؟ This is the displacement or the distance that we are searching for. يبقى to find the value of the displacement or the distance from the graph, you will get ال v times ال t, which means you have to get the area under the curve. Where is the curve? This is the straight line. But in sometimes the area under the straight line, it's not only one shape or one regular shape. هي ممكن ما تكونش shape واحد، مش من الأشكال الهندسية اللي احنا عارفينها. تقسمها براحتك بقى، مفيش مشكلة. في الاريا under curve أو under line دي can be splatted or divided into shapes. ايه هم الجيومتريكال شيبس الموجودين عندي؟ الرايت انجل تريانجل الموجود عندي بلس الريكتانجل الموجود تحت. تمام؟ فهنا هنجيب الاريا بتاعت الرايت انجل تريانجل بلس الاريا بتاعت مين؟ بتاعت الريكتانجل الموجود عندي، والاثنين اعمل لهم summation or adding، يبقى انا كده جبت the whole area under the curve which is represent total distance او الcover displacement. Okay. When the object moves from a rest, which means the object moves from a static state, which means ان ال V initial بتequal 0. يعني ال V initial عندي هتequal مين؟ هتequal 0. لو رجعنا تاني للكيرف اتفقنا ان هنا عندي هنا V initial فليها value، ليها magnitude، فما ينفعش ابدا الكيرف عندي من الزيرو، فببدا من عند ال V initial. طب say الاوبجكت started عندي هنا الاوبجكت from ايه؟ from الريست، يبقى ال V initial بتequal الزيرو، then ال D equal half AT squared. فهيبقى عندي الجراف هيبقى بالشكل اللي موجود عندي هنا، وهنجيب هنا الاريا under the curve which is equal total displacement أو cover displacement. This is a direct application for the second equation of motion. An object moves in a straight line according to the relation D equals 16t plus 1.5t squared. Find the acceleration of the object motion, the initial velocity by comparing time. دلوقتي أنا عندي هنا in sometimes ممكن ما يدينيش البروبلم أو الجيفنز الموجودة على هيئة notes 1 2 أو points موجودة عندي، ممكن يقول لي إن الموشن بتاعت الأوبجكت ده expressed by this equation. تمام؟ طيب أعمل إيه؟ أشوف فين عندي هنا الإيكويشن من اللي أنا أخدتها which is suitable or بتكون متطابقة مع الإيكويشن of motion of the object. طب لما أجي أقارنهم ببعض أنا عندي الدي بتاعت الأوبجكت بتيكوال 16t plus 1.5t squared. طيب وأنا الأوريجينال إيكويشن اللي موجودة عندي اللي هي الدي equal v initial t plus half at squared. طيب يبقى أنا فين هنا لما أعمل comparison ما بينهم هشوف الكومن فاكتورز، يبقى النمبر الموجود جنبها هي دي expressed الفيزيكال كوانتيتي اللي هو عايزها. طيب 16t which is equal v initial t، هنا عندي t و t، يبقى ال v initial هنا بتيكوال كام؟ 16 متر بير سكند. طيب 1.5t squared وفي الاوريجينال equation half a t squared. So الهاف a equal 1.5، دي الهاف بتاعت ال a. طب يبقى التوتال a equal ايه؟ 1.5 times 2 which is equal 3 meter per second square. الايكويشنز دي بتحتاج تريننج كتير وحل كتير، وان شاء الله بالتدريب والكده هتبقى لطيفه وسهله لان هي من اسهل الاجزاء اللي موجوده عندك في الماده. طيب about the third equation we have here the equation of displacement and velocity, the relation between v and a displacement. The displacement of object as we said we can be used d equal v times t as we said before. طيب ال t اصلا بيكوال ايه؟ من ال first equation of motion ال t equal v final minus v initial over acceleration، وال average velocity equal v final plus v initial over 2. طيب ال displacement can be found as follows. ال g equal ال v times t. اوكي يبقى ال d انا عندي هنا هياخد ال two terms او ال two terms او two equations موجودين في بعض وهعملوا multiply مع بعض. فال distance and we will say it again by using your mathematical skills you will get ال v final squared minus ال v initial squared equal 2 في ال a في ال d. This is an example or a simple or direct application for this equation. An object moves in a straight line according to the relation again v final square equal 36 minus 4d. نفس الكلام، عايز الاكسلريشن وعايز الانيشال سبيد او الانيشال velocity. But by comparing the two equations by الاوريجينال او الاوريجينال equation ف v squared equal 33 minus 4d v final squared equal v initial square plus 2ad. So ال v initial square 36 so ال v initial equal 6 meter per second square وال 2d equal minus 4 so ال a equal minus 2 meter per second square. Okay, let's go to the light board just to summarize or make some comparison between the two factors الموجودة عندي. Thank you. We start today the three equations of motion. the first equation was talk about V final equal V initial plus AT, and this is the relation between the final velocity and the time taken during the motion. The second equation represents a distance which is equal V initial T plus half A T squared D, which is the total cover displacement during the motion of the object. And V initial طبعا دي اللي هي السرعة البدائية أو السرعة الابتدائية اللي بتحرك بيها الأوبجكت، وال A اللي هي الأكسلريشن، of course T التايم needed to achieve the motion. The third equation V final squared minus V initial squared equal 2A D. We need just to explain some important notes. During the problem, if you have a problem or text problem, to solve it, we have some key words. What is the meaning of keywords? For example, when the problem or the text of the problem said the object moves from static state or start from rest, which means V initial equal 0. بيقول لي ان الجسم ابتدى الحركه بتاعته من السكون، يبقى بدايه الحركه السرعه بتاعته اللي هو اتحرك بيها كانت بتيكوال 0. ال V initial equal 0. This is when the problem said the object moves from rest or from static state. Increasing في velocity, when the object increases the velocity, which means in the V final it's more than the V initial. So in this case you will get the acceleration in positive direction. Replace the acceleration or substitute the acceleration in the three equations with a positive sign. طيب, when it said driver use the brakes of the car. Brakes of the car اللي هي الفرامل. طيب الفرامل دي يبقى منطقي او بديهي كده ايه اللي هيحصل للفيلوسيتي بتاعته؟ يبقى هيحصل decreasing للvelocity, which means an acceleration will take a negative sign. لما نيجي نعوض عن الاكسلريشن في ال 3 equations الموجودين عندي هنعوض بالنيجاتيف ساين او نحط ال same value but with a negative sign. To stop the moving object or to stop the car or the train, الدرايفر برضو نفس الكلام، هو بيستخدم الفرامل دي اصلا اما علشان يعمل decreasing للفيلوسيتي، ففي الحاله دي هيكون عندي لو عمل decreasing بس he is not stop the car or the vehicle يبقى هناخد ال A بالنيجاتيف ساين. طب to stop the car or the train يبقى in this case هنعمل ايه؟ ال V final it's gonna be equal 0 وفي the same time ال acceleration will take a negative sign. طيب for the first equation to express this equation graphically, which means we will find the relation between LV on the y-axis will T of course in second unit per meter per second or the y-axis. We have two cases. When the object moves from static or from rest, we have a V initial equals 0, so the graph is going to be in this way. If the object, but in another case طب لو في حالة تانية لو الأوبجكت بقى أنا ابتديت أعمل studying للموشن بتاعته مش من البداية بعد ما اتحرك بشوية، يبقى هيبقى شكل الجراف عامل ازاي؟ هنا ال T برضو in second وعندي هنا ال V يكون في عندي value هنا ال cutting part from ال y axis which is represent ال VI وهيكون عندي ده شكل الجراف بتاعي. طيب from this graph how can we find the total covered displacement؟ اتفقنا ان ال D بتequal ال V times ال T which is the multiply of the value of the two axes which is equal ال area under curve. And this is all for today. Thank you for being with us. I'll see you next session inshallah. At the end of our episode, I hope it's interesting and useful for you as it was for me. Thanks for your participation and see you next time inshallah. Bye bye.
أولى ثانوي، فرصة جديدة وحلم جديد وهنعديها بالتأكيد، وهنعديها